Hi, my name is Chaya Wurman, and this is my 15112 term project. So my project is basically just a Rubik's Cube simulator and solver, and the main user interface uses Panda 3D. So when we run the simulation, you see this little intro screen, and when you press enter, you can zoom out to see this 3D model of a Rubik's Cube. So the instructions can be toggled on and off by pressing I. And the first thing you can do is kind of use the mouse to rotate around the camera and see all the sides of the cube. So pressing Control and click and moving the mouse up and down can zoom in and out on the cube. Pressing Alt and click can allow you to rotate around, and just clicking and dragging around will allow you to move around the cube like this. So this is basically so you can just see all the sides of the cube. And then you can also interact with the cube. So we can see on these key controls that a different key corresponds to each face. You actually have two keys that correspond to each face, one for rotating it in each direction. So we can see that R will rotate the red face clockwise, T will rotate it counterclockwise, and there's keys like this for all the faces. And you can use this to basically just interact with the cube however you want. So let's just turn the instructions off to make it a little bit more clear. You can also press S to shuffle the cube. So what pressing S will do is that it'll start an animation of a random set of rotations that the cube will perform, and it'll basically just shuffle itself for you, and you can see exactly what moves are being made to shuffle the cube. So once it's done shuffling, the last thing that the cube can do in Panda 3D is to basically solve itself. So if we go back to the instructions, we can see that pressing the spacebar will solve the cube. So once you press the spacebar, it's going to start a similar animation as the shuffling did, but it'll basically just solve the cube for you. So notice that you can still kind of rotate around the cube while you're watching the animation. So this is useful if you wanted to follow along or just see what all the faces look like while you're solving the cube. And you can also, so basically all the mouse controls are still enabled. And this program solves the cube using the layer by layer method, so although it's not the most efficient way and it takes kind of a long time to solve it, you can see the cube starting to be solved. So we can see that the white cross on the top has already been made, and it's slowly starting to put all the white corners in the right place. And once we wait long enough, it'll eventually solve the cube. Okay, so now the cube is almost done solving itself. You can see it only really has a couple more rotations to make, and now we can see that the cube has solved itself. And the cool thing is that even after it's kind of played this animation, it's still a fully interactive cube, so if you still wanted to, you could still rotate it around and play with it, and shuffle it again if you so wanted to. So the second main feature of the project is a user input feature. So let's say you had an actual Rubik's Cube and you wanted to know how to solve it. You could use this TK Inter user interface to manually input the colors on all the faces of a Rubik's Cube, and my program will tell you how to solve it. So this one says, with the white centerpiece up, enter the colors around the red centerpiece. So this gray grid essentially represents the face around the white centerpiece if the white centerpiece was pointing up. So you can change the current color by clicking these buttons on the top, and then if you click inside the grid, it'll assign that sticker or that face to be whatever color you talked about. So if you have an actual Rubik's Cube in front of you, you can enter in all the colors that are on that face, and do that for all these sides of the Rubik's Cube. And just for time's sake, I've already filled out the rest of them, and these faces represent an actual cube. So once you've entered in all the faces and put in real colors for all the faces on the Rubik's Cube, you can press Solve. So once you press Solve, you can go into the console and it will tell you all the moves that you would need to essentially solve your cube. So first it'll tell you that you need to point the white centerpiece up and the piece with the red centerpiece forward, and then you follow the moves it tells you to do. And it also tells you how many moves are required, and if you followed these, it would solve your cube using the same algorithm that the 3D one uses. So that is my term project for 15112. Thanks for watching.